Welcome in, Campo and Joe. Fired up and ready to go. Coming out of the bye week, we hope you're well rested. We're well rested because we just ate a bunch of turkey. We had a 1010XL station Thanksgiving cook-off, so we've got full bellies, but we're ready to go. Dave Campo, former Dallas Cowboy head coach, assistant right here in Jacksonville, countless years in the National Football League, and Joe C. from XL Primetime. Thanks for tuning in or wherever you pick us up on any of the social channels with 1010XL. We appreciate it. We say thanks to Beaver Chevrolet. We appreciate them for bringing Campo and Joe your way, and they can also bring you great deals right now with the Black Friday specials. You need to check them out, beaverchevrolet.com. Make sure that you go get a great deal if you're looking for a brand new or pre-owned ride. So, Coach, we come out of the bye week. And you would think that the team's got to do a little self-scouting, kind of take a look at where they are. Well, we know they're a 300 batter right now. That's good in baseball, but not in football. They've won 3 out of 10 games. How does Coach Peterson kind of go into the bye week and kind of reset the button to go into this 7-game stretch?
Well, first of all, you've got to look at what you've done and, the results and what teams are doing against you and what you're doing against other teams. So the self-scout during this period of time is really, really important because everybody's looking that what's hurt you in the past, what you've done to hurt people,
right?
And they're going to react accordingly to that. So that's the first thing that's going to happen. The other part of it is you're going to work on some things with the extra couple practices that you're not doing well. Mm-hmm. And, obviously there's some things that we've made some mistakes that have hurt us badly in these first 10 ball games. And those are things that you can get a little bit of an extra jump on when you've got the extra time.
You got the Baltimore Ravens coming into town. We're going to spend a lot of time looking at both sides of the ball when it comes to them. But what would you say is a reasonable goal for this football team? You've told stories before about getting on a roll, starting to turn the proverbial corner and believe in yourself in the second half of a season, even though it may not add up to a winning record. What would be kind of that goal and mission?
Well, I think the goal is to win every game, and I think that this team has kind of demonstrated that they're going to be in every ball game. And when you're in every ball game in the fourth quarter, you've got a chance to win. Doesn't matter who you're playing against. They haven't had that person or scheme or whatever to finish.
Right.
So that's going to be something that they're going to be working extremely hard on to make sure that they have what it takes when they get down to the end of the ball game. Mm-hmm. There's no question this team really, I get the feeling that they feel that they're close.
Right.
I think that from that standpoint, you want to try to win 3 or 4 to at least give you the feeling going into next year that you're going to be a contender. And that's really the goal, along with making sure that the quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, improves. And there's some other young players that have a chance to improve as well. Etienne, Fortner, Lloyd, Walker, a lot of young players out there, Cisco, that every single rep that they get in this next 7 games is going to go into next year.
Yeah. So let's get to that defensive side of the football, because that's where I think most people are probably frustrated. Even against the Kansas City Chiefs, the last time you saw Jacksonville on the football field, they were aggressive, they took chances, they found their way into the end zone, but they also found a way to lose. And defensively, there were these gaping holes that you and I were talking about. Travis Kelce and really any other tight end with big plays being made down the field. So let's go bye week and then back to work this week. How do they button up some of that stuff? Because Devin Lloyd's got to be one of the chief concerns for Mike Caldwell and the defensive staff and really just trying to regenerate a pass rush again, too.
Well, when they look at this, and they're going to study the games all the way through the first 10, they're going to see that the only problem with the defense is consistency. And the consistency is that they're making too many critical errors. And so to me, if I'm doing it and I'm looking at this defense and I'm not studying it like they are,
right? So
it's easy to see that they need to simplify. And that means that they've got to go into a ball game saying, look, we may be able to stop them doing something with this, but we haven't practiced it enough. We're not playing it very well. They're better off just going in and saying, look, we're going to play and let our guys play, be simple, and do the things that we know we can do and not make critical errors. And if we don't make critical errors, I think from a defensive standpoint, that's helping our offense because our offense is capable of making some really big strides here in the next 7 games.
And if you go back over the last couple of games, they have forced their share of turnovers. They just haven't necessarily been able to turn those quickly into points. You look at the first half of the Chiefs game, onside kick, they won the possession, ultimately had to punt the ball away, didn't turn it into points, forced a turnover, and then wasn't able to turn that into points on the plus side of the field. So I'm sure they're looking at going, we need to take care of our chances. We need to score when we have an opportunity to score. So the offensive side of the ball, how are they self-scouting that, and how are they trying to make sure that they turn another corner?
Well, first of all, they have to look at it, and they've got to say, okay, here's the things that we're doing really well, whether it's run the football, play action off of it. Mm-hmm. When we get to third down, are we handling the blitzes well? Are we... those kind of things are what they're looking at. Right. And if they have to commit a back in the blocking scheme a little bit more, if they have to go to 2 tight ends more to get maximum protection, those are the kind of things that they're going to try to firm up here during the bye week and then go into the game with the same approach, that here's what we do well, let's do it. Yeah. And let's see what happens.
All right, so let me give you just a comparison as we take a look at the Baltimore Ravens, because you're right, Jacksonville's got to figure out how to take advantage of certain situations against a Chiefs team that provided some pressure. They got to Trevor a little bit. The run game wasn't necessarily nearly as successful as it was the week before when Etienne busted off some big runs, went plus 100 yards. He was neutralized. They only had like 45 yards from him on the ground, and Trevor was able to do some nice things through the ball for a decent percentage. But where do they look to attack against the Baltimore Ravens defense?
Well, the Baltimore Ravens are really tough versus the run. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're only giving up about 4 yards a carry, which is low. That puts them up pretty high in rush defense in the league. So, they're going to have to pick and choose there. They'll be okay as long as they don't get behind right away. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened against Kansas City. They were behind right away. They didn't take advantage of a couple of opportunities. The first drive, they got Kirk wide open on the 10-yard line. He drops the ball, things like that, and they miss a couple field goals. When you're behind like that, that changes the dynamic of the game. Now, you'd like to say, as a play caller, you know what? I'm still going to stick with, doing what's best. But, when you're in that situation and you're behind and it's going to be tough to catch up and they can score, right? You're trying to do some things that you probably shouldn't do. And I think they will look at those kind of things and say, look, we've got to, I think against Baltimore, we can run enough and play action. And like I said, we're going to have to use maybe a little bit more 2 tight ends, to give us a little bit more protection. Yeah,
and wouldn't you like to see a little bit more, not only protecting Trevor and giving him time to throw, but getting those other guys in the pattern, re-involving Dan Arnold again. Evan Ingram definitely has become more a part of this offense, but Arnold is that big guy that's supposed to be that inline blocker that also has the ability to release and make plays. They got to get him going somehow, some way.
Yeah, well, Arnold, I'll be honest with you, I think Ingram's done a wonderful job.
He has, yeah.
But Arnold has some of the same qualities.
Yes.
And he's bigger.
Yes.
So he's more of a combination tight end.
That's the one that can fool a defense, right?
What's that?
That's the one that can fool a defense.
Absolutely. He's got the ability to do both. Mm-hmm. And so, to me, I would try to get him more involved, just like you said, just from the standpoint of going forward. Right. Now, he's not under contract either, but it's going to be a lot easier to get him under contract money-wise than it is Ingram going forward. Mm-hmm. So the more that they can include him, I think it will help them overall. Mm-hmm. Like I said, the two tight end scheme is going to be a factor, I think, in this ball game. It's going to be a big boy attack. Yeah. You're going to have to it's a physical, both sides of the football in this game.
And I don't know whether or not they have a running game with Gus Edwards that is anything more impressive than what Jacksonville has when ETN can get going. I'd like to see ETN get to the outside a little bit more. We all know that they still got to run at times in between the tackles, but free him up again. Give him some of those wrinkle and wiggle plays. You know, one of the things that struck me coming out of this bye week, and I had my phone out, I'm taking all sorts of notes, and basically things that I forgot about watching Jaguar football every Sunday. And one of the things that got me is everybody's got a backup running back. There's always a complimentary guy that can go get the job done for a lot of these football teams that are out there. Jacksonville right now is missing that. So Hasty does need to come up and be able to make sure that he can make plays, that he can spell Travis Etienne and not be a liability. He needs to actually make some plays for this football team.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised after the bye week that you don't see Snoop Connor, because
that'd be fine.
You know, because Connor is more of a power runner, and this is going to be like I said earlier, a big boy game, and you know you're going to have to pound it a little bit to make sure that you're keeping them honest. And I think what you're going to see from ETN, I think he's going to have a little trouble going to the perimeter because they attack off the edge
side to
really
side.
Well. They can run, those kind of things. Screen game.
Okay.
You know, that's something that they have to get done more, in my opinion, because you got to get him ability to carry the football in space.
I agree.
And that's where he could really be a factor if they can get the screaming going. And they've got 5 pass rushers that all have over 2 sacks during the course of the years. You know, 4 and 4 and 4.5 and 9.
Yeah.
You know, they've got to neutralize the pass rush a little bit, and that could be one of the ways they do it.
Yeah, even Big Calais, 4.5 sacks. And they're going to have to account for him on the interior part of that line. You mentioned that, you know, you'd like to see the development of Luke Fortner to keep rolling, but Luke and next to him Shatley and whether or not it's Brandon Sheriff, they're going to have to match up with Calais somewhere along the middle of that with however many plays they pick.
Well, they've got, like I said, they've got Houston, they've got Queen, they've got Calais, they've got, you know, a number of guys that can make plays. Matabuki has 3-something sacks. So they've got that front is the key, in my opinion. If we're going to do well offensively, our offensive line is going to have to come and play, and I think that's one of the biggest things to look at going into this game. All
right, so now let's flip it, and let's look at the other side of the ball. And the Baltimore Ravens this past week played the Carolina Panthers, and they played an ugly game. It was 3-3 into the fourth quarter. They only had, I look back, Coach, they had 11 possessions. 1 resulted in a touchdown. That is it. And so I would think this football team, when they look at the Ravens on tape, they've got to figure out how to attack. That's a football team that might be stumbling just a little bit. Lamar Jackson's QBR is 19th in the league. It's below 50. So if you can, I don't know if you can, but if you can neutralize his run game and corral him a little bit, they may have something.
Well, they're a power offense and a read offense. And when I say that, the power game comes from, you know, just trying to bloody your nose and you know, run right at you with the running backs. And they've got a committee of running backs. They don't have one guy that stands out. Drake, you just said
Edwards, Gus Edwards.
You know, they've got some good backs, but they're not breakaway backs. They're power backs. But it also includes the power game with the quarterback. And the quarterback runs the quarterback power. So to me, you got to load up to stop the run. This is a game where you truly have to force Lamar to throw the football to win.
Right.
And the receivers are okay. They're not great. The other thing they've got to contend with is his ability to run the football. And to be honest with you, he doesn't run the ball as much scrambling as he does with either the power run game with him running the football or the read game, which is he's either handing it off or keeping it on the outside. One thing the bye week affords you that is an advantage is that you can really zero in on your extra practices on making sure you are disciplined. Who's got the quarterback? You know, how are you going to protect against the quarterback run? Those kind of things are going to be very important in this football game. Then it's going to come down to whether or not our front can handle their front.
I'm looking at Mark Andrews. He just came back from injury, and the numbers, he's got 48 grabs, over 550 yards, been in the end zone 5 times, and his average catch is over 11 yards. That's a guy that the last time we saw this defense on the football field, it was a tight end having success. That Mark Andrews target is a favorite one for Lamar. They're going to have to make sure they button him up.
Yeah, he's the best guy, combination guy there is out there.
Mm-hmm.
The guy is a pretty good blocker, and he definitely can catch the football, and that's the comfort level. They're not just chunking it down the field either. That's why they're not scoring. A 3-point game.
Right.
If we can hold them to 3 points, we're going to be in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
But they've got to make sure they can handle him, and how they do that. There's a number of different ways, but the biggest thing is don't let him get the run game going.
And when we talk about Devin Lloyd, trying to right the ship with Devin Lloyd, and for that matter, Oluokun, too, who's playing from the inside and also has some responsibility in accounting for those tight ends. Mike Caldwell and his staff, they really got to drill down on that and make sure that these guys, because you were really frustrated by them trying to go to zone, and players were looking around. They didn't know where to pick up a guy or when to release a guy and then another guy pick him up in the zone.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem they have right now. They started out in man coverage, and they were struggling a little bit. They lose a corner, who was not the greatest man cover, but he was a veteran,
Mm-hmm.
Griffin, that can play corner in the league. So now they've gone more to the zone game, which I think is the right thing to do. The problem is they're doing too many of them.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a goal line pass. I've seen them on the goal line, literally. Let me back up.
Mm-hmm.
We had one goal line. That's it. We were lined up at one goal line because, number one, you want to be perfect down there.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, if you got a first and goal on the 1 yard line, 2 yard line, chances are they're going to score.
Okay,
that's chances are.
Yeah.
You got to be realistic.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't want to spend a ton of time. We just wanted to make sure that our guys knew exactly what they were doing, and they were attacking in that situation. I've seen the Jaguars in 3 goal line packages. Now, there's no reason to be in 3 goal line packages.
Right.
To me, that means that they're doing too much stuff, and that is in every phase on defense, and that's why guys like Lloyd may be struggling.
Yeah.
Maybe they can't get the most out of Walker because he's got to know maybe too many things. So, is he coming inside? Is he coming off the edge? Is he coming out in pass coverage? My answer to them this week would have been simplify on defense.
Okay.
Let's line up and let our guys play football and see where we match up and play.
I know that they're trying to keep things simple, but at the same time, is that an easier diagnosis from the offense? Can you, as an opposing offense, just wear out a team that has some guys out there that coaches have been forced to simplify things for them? I would think that'd make it easier for the other side.
Yeah, not really, because in all honesty, when you look at the quarterbacks around, just take Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
He's a lot easier when it's man coverage. When it's zone, he struggles a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's the zone principles you got to firm up.
Okay.
To me, we're not a man-to-man team, in my opinion.
Right.
And that's, it comes down to execution.
Mm-hmm.
If I know exactly what I'm doing and I'm a professional football player, I ought to be able to make some plays. I don't care who I'm playing against.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the only thing is they got to put Devin Lloyd back in a confidence situation.
Correct.
Okay, not just a correct situation, but a confidence situation.
Right.
And if you could, and Trayvon Walker too.
Yeah. And that may be why they have to play one man-to-man and one zone. That's it. Let's go in and let's line up, and we can make it look like a man coverage and play a zone coverage, but we've got to know what we're doing when we're playing those coverages.
Because I go back to this past Sunday, Aiden Hutchinson made a couple more plays, picked off a ball, recovered a fumble, was very, very disruptive around the line of scrimmage. Trayvon needs to get back to being disruptive around the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, where he'll end up. It may be that he is just a power rusher right now, but he's got to get reps, and he's got to make sure that he's trying to work on some things and give him a chance to make some moves and make things happen. Hey, listen, I'm more worried about Allen.
I agree.
If it really comes down to it, he's not playing to his potential.
Yeah, and here's where we get caught. let's just say there was somebody else that was underperforming, and we would say, I'm worried about that guy. I'm not worried about Josh Allen because he's young. He's going to develop. Well, guess what? Josh Allen hasn't developed from a 10.5 sack record performance as a rookie. He is not developed. And so now he's the guy that we're looking at going, what the hey? How come you haven't turned the corner? There are other pieces around here. If I'm Mike Caldwell and if I'm that defensive line coach, I'm putting my thumb on this guy saying, you got to go get something done for us.
Yeah, I think, they say it all the time. He knows what he needs to do. He's got to play better and all those things, but I'm not seeing it right now. So that's something we've got to, they got to get on top of it and maybe do a few more things with him specifically, with different rush angles and all that. But he's got to do something, that's for sure.
And DeJuan Smoot was playing that position a little bit more this last game out.
Right. And he's going to. I mean, he's produced.
Yeah.
He's got, I think he's got, 5 sacks?
Yeah, 4.5 or 5 sacks.
Yeah. And that's what you would hope, that you'd have 2 or 3 guys with 5 sacks. Mm-hmm. And that's what we don't have right now.
All right, so let's wrap it up with a couple of things. Trevor first, and then I want to do the coaches just a little bit because Harbaugh's a good quality coach. But Trevor, trying to keep that progress going. He has the bye week. You learn a little bit. We did all the self-scouting discussion earlier. Does he come out of the box hot for the next 7 games and really solidify himself as a guy that's just slowly inching up?
I think he should.
Mm-hmm.
It's him along with that front.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to keep him protected. He's got to get rid of the ball. He's getting more comfortable with the offense. He's finding his receivers a little bit more, getting a little bit more accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not going to get the big chunk takeoffs very often. It's going to be play action pass, deep crosses, things like that, which he throws very well.
Mm-hmm.
Get him on the move a little bit.
Yeah, I love that.
That's when he's going to be good. But I think he should now start to feel more comfortable going forward and improve as we go forward here. And that's a big part of what should happen.
Oh, yeah.
Has to happen in the next 7 ball games.
Yeah. For you to feel good about where this football team is, he needs to take that huge step forward. He already has taken some big steps, but we're talking about that, that natural progression as one of the top quarterbacks that could be in the league. John Harbaugh, Doug Peterson, seasoned. And for Harbaugh, when he first came in, he was a special teams guy. He knew how to just bring guys together, look at all the different angles of a game plan. Is he underappreciated up there in Baltimore? Super Bowl winner. It just keeps generating, for the most part, good football teams.
Yeah, he's gonna be in the league for a long time. Yeah. I mean, they just kind of reload. And that's a credit to the coaching staff, him and the scouting staff. That's what they do a good job with. And they're a perennial playoff type football team. Yeah. And I think he's outstanding. I think one of the things about special teams coaches don't get enough credit, period, because other than the head coach, the special teams coach is the only one that talks to the entire team.
Yeah.
Because 90% of the team is on special teams in some form or fashion.
Right.
So, those guys are used to dealing with team concept as opposed to an offensive coordinator is only worried about getting a bunch of yards and a defensive guy is trying to stop them.
Yeah, exactly. I have a lot of respect for him, that's for sure. So, all right, we're done. Campo and Joe will be looking back at this game after Sunday and hoping that we're back on at least some type of a feel-good, maybe win streak. We'll see. But this is a winnable football game. You really have to look and say they can get to Lamar. Make sure that they're playing gap responsible because that's going to be the biggest key against him. Coach Campo, always appreciate you hanging out. We appreciate Beaver Chevrolet with all their sponsorship and support of Coach Campo, either on XL Primetime or right here with Campo and Joe. Don't forget beaverchevrolet.com, and you can find them right there on Phillips Highway.
And happy Thanksgiving. Have a great holiday.
We got much to be thankful for, don't we?
We sure do. We have a ton to be thankful for. And I've got more to be thankful for than a lot of people, and I'm happy with that.
Eat a lot of turkey and be thankful. Joe C., Dave Campo, we'll talk to you next week.